One day, Yogananda was urging a disciple to overcome a bad habit. And the disciple said to the Guru, "I want to change, but Guruji, how can I change without your blessings?" And Yogananda replied, and he said, "My blessings are there already. God's blessings are there. What is lacking is your blessings. We need to make the effort," is what Guruji was saying here. Swami Kriyananda said, in the spiritual life, we must balance self-effort with receptivity to divine grace. Passive dependence on grace lacks the power to attract that grace. We ask God for blessings, but how do we consciously attract those blessings? And just like sunlight on the side of the building, if you want to receive that light, you need to open your own curtains. And God's grace is constantly flowing to us. But to receive it, we need to actively open ourselves to receive it. And prayer and meditation open the curtains of the mind. And an attitude of willingness, embracing whatever duty that life puts on your shoulders. And for some people that's harder to do, to embrace willingly whatever situation God has given us. There's a story of Eklavya, and you may know the story. He dreamt of becoming a skilled archer, but Dronacharya, the archery guru, would not accept him. He trained only the Kuru princes. And so Eklavya became an expert at remote learning. And he made a clay idol of Drona, put it in front of him. He inwardly tuned in to Drona, and through that attunement gradually gained Drona's skills. And he surpassed all of the other students, even though he was never with Drona. The grace was there, and Eklavya put out the effort to receive it. We think that a great leader like Swami Kriyananda or Yogananda makes wonderful things happen. Now we think that, well, now if there were just more Ananda Acharyas in India, they would do so many good things. But a leader really can do very little on his own. If no one reads the Guru's writings, what effect have they? None. If no one practices meditation techniques, what effect do they have? And so it's up to each one of us to practice what we've been given and to talk with God with an open heart every day, even about the smallest things, so that we open ourselves to that grace. And then thirdly, to seek the satsang of other seekers. And together, all of these create these miracles that seem to happen only to spiritual people. Jesus said, "Knock, and the door shall be open." But first, we need to do the knocking. There is the story of Moses, who followed the voice of God and led his people from Egypt to Israel until they got to the Red Sea, and they had no way of crossing the Red Sea. And Moses prayed, but there was no answer, until finally he gathered the strength to start putting one foot in front of the other into the water. And then the sea parted and everybody crossed over the dry seabed. Swami Kriyananda felt for a long time that his guru wanted him to return here to India after many years. But he didn't know how or when. And he asked his assistant to write to several publishers here in India that published his books, and to ask them, would they sponsor a lecture for him in Delhi? And the assistant wrote the same letter to the same publishers 6 years in a row. Every year, the publisher said no. Then in 2003, devotees here in India urged Swamiji to come, that is saying that Ananda was really needed here, and the time was right. That same year, that same letter went to the same publishers, and 2 of them immediately agreed to organize a talk for Swamiji at IIC. And that became the first lecture that Swamiji gave in India after some 40 years. And Daya and I arrived the same day as that lecture, and we went directly from the airport, as I recall, to the lecture to help host people that evening. And for years, Daya and I led these Sunday satsangs in a classroom that we rented just for Sunday mornings. And we knew that we needed a full-time hall that we could use any time, as we do now. And we started looking with friends, with property dealers all over South India, South Delhi, and for weeks. Every few days we would go out and look at more property. And the only property we saw was way too small or way too expensive or both. But we kept putting out the effort. And I think as a result of that effort, as a result of God's grace, one devotee came forward and offered us this ashram rent-free. And this is how it works when we live for God and when we surrender to God. Ananda has several temples of light in different countries, and our monks are planning one for Chandigarh now. And all of them have these beautiful deep blue roof tiles. And the first one to be built was in Italy. And they were planning it, and they came to the point it was time to choose the color, the exact color for the tiles. And they saw many samples. They were like, paint samples that you would choose for painting a wall. Each color had a name. And they were attracted to one particular color of blue, but they weren't quite sure. And they prayed to Yoganandaji, and then they looked carefully at the sample, the name of the sample. It was called January 5th. It was the birth date of Yoganandaji. Then they knew. Sri Krishna says that to those who meditate on me as their very own, their hearts ever united to me by incessant, inward worship. I supply their deficiencies and make permanent their gains. What a loving and reassuring promise. If we trust in God, if we do our best, then He gives us everything that we need. Yogananda Ji said, God doesn't mind your faults. He minds your indifference. It's not about God loving us, it's about us loving God. There was a letter that Yogananda Ji wrote to his disciples in 1952, and here's an excerpt. He said, "You all will have lots of troubles when I'm gone. But when you think of me, I will be there. And you will see that everything runs smoothly. If you only knew what you all are doing. This work nobody can stop. It is just the greatest thing that has come to this earth. God is holding it in His hands and wouldn't let anything hurt you all whom I am training. I don't want you to be afraid. Just stay in tune, and when there is trouble, just get more in tune." Thank you.
Many of you may know the Bible story of when Jesus was healing many people. I mean, just having miraculous healing after miraculous healing. Of course, a lot of people started following Him because they also wanted to be healed. And at one point, they were trying to get us sort of away from the crowd. They went in a boat, crossed the river. The crowd was waiting on the other side of actually it was a lake, on the other side of the lake. And so then he started walking, and just a crowd was pressing him from all sides, just really swarming him because they had things they wanted to have healed. So just his disciples were doing what they could to protect him, and as they were walking along, and suddenly Jesus stopped and said, "Wait, someone touched me." And his disciples were like, "Master, everybody's touching you, this is a very big crowd around you. Everybody's pressing you from all sides. What do you mean somebody touched me?" And he said, "I felt the power go out of me." So then, he started looking around like, what was the source of this power coming out of him? And this woman came up to him and said, "It was me. I knew that if I touched you, that I would be healed. I've had the blood hemorrhage for 12 years and no doctor, nothing has been able to heal me. And I just knew if I touched the hem of your garment, I would be instantly healed." And he said, "Woman, your faith has healed you. Now go in peace." And so it's when you think of all probably hundreds or thousands of other people around him, they must have also had some kind of hope or belief or prayer that they also would be healed. But just this one woman drew that grace, drew that healing power through Jesus. And, when you think of what might be going through our mind in such a crowded situation, we may be vying for, I want to get closer, and just an egoistic sort of grabbing, like, no, I want it. And, or they could have just been talking to each other. Can you believe this? There he is, he's finally here. So, and just not with their heart in true knowing, which is like, the soul having a direct experience, because she'd never seen this man before, but her soul had the direct experience of truth that this is a great man of God. This man is one with God. He can heal you. So she knew that, and with that faith, she just touched his robe and she was healed. So our role is very, very important in how we draw grace, or if we are to draw grace. Because these great masters, are just channels of the divine at all times. And their consciousness is one with God at all times, and God is flowing through them. Grace is flowing through them, healing power, light, wisdom, divine love, always flowing through them. And Jesus wasn't the one deciding, okay, I'm going to heal this one, or I'm going to heal this woman here. He had no conscious role. He was just a channel, and that woman was able to draw that power. And so our masters are constantly, channels of that grace, of that power to us, of that love, of guidance, whatever it is we're seeking. But they're not choosing who's receiving it. It's up to us to decide if we can lift our consciousness enough, be in tune enough to merge with that power and then be able to pull it like a radio station. If you tune into a certain radio station, then suddenly you can hear. You're not hearing all the other stations, but you're hearing that one. So it's our job, our role, to tune ourselves that we're able to draw that power. Swami Kriyananda, when he was here in India, he spent a fair amount of time, or some time, with Anandamoyi Ma, the great saint. And she said of Swamiji, she said, 25 years or more, so many devotees have been around me, but nobody's been able to receive from me what Swami Kriyananda has been able to receive. And to other people she said, here is a lotus in a pond, and all these frogs are croaking under the lotus in the pond. And a bee comes in, steals the honey, and leaves. He goes, Kriyananda is that bee. So what the gurus have given us, what Swami has also given us, is how to be that bee. Sister Gyanamata in Yoganandaji's ashram in Mount Washington, devotees would be all around him, crowding him, also listening to his lectures, being around. When he'd walk into the door, everybody would exclaim with joy. She would be in the back corner, eyes closed, looking down, just communing with him inwardly. She would never say anything to him. She would hardly look at him. She had such an inward connection to him, and he always said she was the one that had the greatest connection with him. And so when we pray, who are we praying to? Are we praying to a God that's distant? He's so far away, I hope he hears my prayers. I have to pray a lot because he's so far away. Or I'm afraid that he's judging me. I'm afraid he'll punish me. And so we kind of keep God a little bit at a distance. But as Yogananda's prayers are, Father, Mother, Friend, our father and our mothers, are they going to deny us if we ask for something? So we need to pray like to our very own father, to our very own mother. They want to give us everything, but we need to want it with open-hearted longing and love. And of course, maybe the easiest way to connect and pray with God or to relate to God is as a friend. A friend is that mutual give and take, that mutual giving, mutual receiving. And it's just a natural flow of I'm with you, I'm giving to you, I'm communicating with you, and at the same time you're doing that with me. So it's just an easy divine flow, and there's no strain there, there's no compulsion, nobody has to do anything. But it's just an open-hearted desire to connect. And so that's what we need to draw God's grace, that open-hearted longing. I mean, we know in the Gita that Krishna reveals his universal form to Arjuna. And Arjuna's scared of that form. It gives him fear. And he said, please, just come back to your normal form where you're just my friend, because I can relate to you as my friend. So there was a time when Swami Kriyananda was leaving San Francisco and going to go abroad for some time, I think many months. And as always, his students came to him and was going to receive a blessing before he left, because they had to carry on work at Ananda Village and in San Francisco at the various Ananda centers. So all the students came, as usual, before he left for a blessing. And he said, "This time, I want you all to bless me." And it was the first time that he'd asked for that, or that had happened before, so people were a little taken aback. Like, really? But, everybody went deep inside and went up to Swamiji and blessed him. And they felt so much grace from Swamiji by putting out that energy to give to him. In our soul giving, we can receive. Also, the woman that was healed, she gave Christ that love and that open-hearted giving of herself in that moment, so she was able to receive. And so all the disciples received so much that day, that moment, when they all went and blessed Swami. It's sort of like part of Ananda history, a big moment. And another was here in India. Swami was diagnosed with colon cancer. He had a malignant tumor in his colon. It was small, thank goodness. But he went into surgery at Max Saket. And everyone all over the world was praying very, very deeply for Swami, because even though he had had health issues all his life, he had never had cancer, and people were really, really praying. And it was 24/7 vigils, it was in America, then Europe, then India. It was just really, people were praying round the clock. And as Swamiji went into surgery, he was feeling immense bliss. He kind of wrote a letter to everybody at Ananda and just said, "I feel nothing but love and, deep love for everyone." And he said, "I mean everyone." And he had been, persecuted and had some hard times. But in that letter, he was just saying, "I feel only love. I feel only bliss. And I just pray that you all can feel this bliss and this love." So when everybody was praying for him in the surgery, people were connecting to his bliss. And it was just this big thing with it at Ananda, that everybody that was praying for Swami during that time was having a very deep experience of bliss or power or love or grace. And so those are two really big times that people really were giving to Swami, and they were able to merge with his consciousness and receive back. So it really is up to us that what grace, power, love from the divine, it is always, always flowing to us. But we will only receive it according to our recognition of it or our capacity to receive it. And so, as Keshava was saying, they come to show us how to receive it. That's our teachings. This is how you receive grace. This is how you receive power. You openly serve others. You be channels of the Guru's vibration, of God's vibration to others. You be with other truth seekers. You meditate. And these Gurus in particular, you do Kriya Yoga so that you can get control of your energy, uplift your consciousness, and merge with that vibration that's always flowing to you. And I'll just close with the quote that our Guru Yoganandaji used all the time, and that Swami Kriyananda used all the time, and that we use all the time. In the Bible, it is said that of Christ, that to those who received him, to them gave he the power to become the sons and daughters of God.